I bet Victoria never had this particular secret.
Would you ever wake up on a regular morning and suddenly decide you don't want to be a good, rule-abiding person anymore? If the cash in the vault were at your disposal, if you could take control of your life again, would you reach out and grab it? My name's Bridget. I used to be a respectable bank janitor, but now I'm public enemy number 1 on the FBI's most wanted list. That night, the air in Kansas was thick, like the silence before paper money catches fire. The 3 of us, me, Nina, and Jackie, along with our families, were each at home, trying to destroy the cash we had spent so much time stealing. I knew we didn't have much time left. Don was still at the toilet, desperately flushing the shredded bills down the drain. I didn't have time for another word with him. I stuffed the bundle of cash I'd prepared into my bag. I grabbed a piece of meat from the fridge and headed to the back door. The neighbor's dog had always barked at me. I threw the meat, and it immediately shifted its focus. I took the chance to slip out the backyard, climb over the fence, and dive into my car. Stay calm, Bridget. This is what you've been doing all along. Planning, executing, cleaning up. Who would have thought all of this started 3 years ago at a neighborhood party? That day, I forced myself to go to Mindy and Bryce's party. Since Don lost his job, we hadn't been to the country club anymore. I thought I could still act like I was fine, like everything was normal, but deep down, I was already an empty shell. I didn't expect that at that party. I would find out. Don had been secretly selling our house behind my back. I nearly lost it and rushed home. We had an all-out war. He said we were drowning in debt, that he couldn't find a new job because no one would hire a man his age. He said it so earnestly, but what I heard was, "I've given up." What made me even angrier was that he hadn't told me any of this over the past year. I'm not the kind of person who just sits around and waits to die. I never imagined my life would slide downhill so passively. I told myself, if he's not going to solve the problem, then I will. But reality quickly sobered me up. I sent out tons of resumes, went to job agencies, even combed through the newspaper, but it was all for nothing. The job search nearly drained me. I thought I could still turn things around the old-fashioned way. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the newspaper, feeling like I was a page from some outdated classified ad, completely discarded by the world. That afternoon, Maria, our cleaner, came to find me with a stormy expression. She said her paycheck had been rejected by the bank again, which meant our account was empty. I felt terrible, but I really couldn't scrape together a penny to give her. In that moment, I suddenly understood. I had fallen to the absolute bottom of the reality pit. A few days later, I finally found a job as a janitor at the Federal Reserve Bank. It sounded so prestigious, but it was really just a job paying minimum wage, scrubbing toilets. But who cares? I needed a job. I needed money. I needed to find that Bridget who could take control again. The first time I went in, they gave me a tour to get familiar with the workplace. My new boss, Glover, had a face as serious as a ledger, telling me that everyone here was under constant surveillance. Every move was caught by the cameras. The woman who operated the machine that shredded old bills into tiny pieces. She didn't say much, but I could tell she was efficient and calm. More importantly, she showed no emotion when dealing with those piles of useless currency, while I watched those bags of money being fed into the shredder like trash. And all I could think was, this is wrong. Can you imagine? Those bills were being destroyed just because they were old, wrinkled, or torn. I was a woman who once camped out at midnight for supermarket discounts, and now I stood in the middle of this gold mine, watching it get destroyed day after day. I couldn't understand it, and I couldn't accept it. A few days later, the kitchen faucet broke, and I had to go to the hardware store. It was there, among all the display items, that my eyes fell on a lock. The heavy metal, the complex structure, the line between closure and opening. Some strange spark ignited in that moment. I started making a plan. The next day, I arrived at work earlier than usual, paying extra attention to the positions of every camera. I observed the cash truck routes, noting their arrival times, stops, and even who was pushing them. Slowly, I figured out that to open those locked vaults, 3 keys were needed, one in the sorting room, one in the hands of the proxy in the inspection room, and the last one in the destruction room. I'm not the type to rush into things. I needed help, but not just anyone, someone I could trust. So I began testing my colleagues. I pretended to drop a single dollar bill on the floor to see if anyone would pocket it.
I guess I ought to turn it into the office though, huh?
The result?
Right.
Every single one of them picked it up and returned it to me. Too honest, not quite right. That's when I noticed Jackie. She was pushing a cash cart, listening to music, lost in her own world. She looked like a goofy big sister, the kind of person who would make others let their guard down. Maybe even more easily pulled into an adventure she never saw coming. Before we left for the day, our bags would always be checked by security. Barry Cobb and that young guy, Sean. Sean always flirted with the ladies, like he thought he was some sort of ladies' man. I couldn't help but smile when I watched him. He was so focused on his own image, perhaps missing the more important things in front of him. Nina rejected me the first time, and honestly, I wasn't surprised. The look in her eyes was like I was some kind of lunatic. Maybe she even thought I was an undercover agent sent by the Federal Reserve, testing her loyalty. But I wasn't about to give up that easily.
Why? Because they don't empty the trash.
I'd studied her long before. She was a good mother, diligent, responsible. She was just too poor. Poverty isn't a flaw, but it can make a person give up all their dreams just to survive another day. So I went to her house myself. It wasn't big, and I could hear the kids' voices through the cracks in the window. In that moment, I saw her weakness, my only opening.
Find someone else.
She pushed me away time and time again, almost like she was using every ounce of her strength to protect her fragile moral high ground. But I knew, women like us, once the thought of maybe this could work crosses our minds, there's no turning back.
I'm not gonna think about it.
Oh, okay, that's a good idea. Don't think about it. Whatever you do, don't think about it.
The next day, she found the flyer I'd left in her locker. I'd carefully selected information from a few schools. Her kids deserved a better life, and she deserved more choices. And I was just the key to that better life. At noon in the bathroom, we bumped into each other again. This time, she didn't push me away. Instead, she finally laid out her conditions for joining. She said she couldn't go to jail. She was a single mother. I promised her everything would go smoothly, that we'd be the most precise, most elegant group of thieves in the bank's history. But we were still one short, someone to handle the cash cart, so we turned our attention to Jackie. That day, she dropped her wallet in the parking lot. When I picked it up, I noticed the syringe. Nina furrowed her brows, but I didn't rush to judge. I took her to the bar that Yuko opened, and with a little alcohol and some quiet words, we tentatively extended the invitation to her. Later, we found out that the syringe was insulin. She wasn't addicted to anything at all. She chose to hide it because we had shown concern for her. In a way, she was willing to let us believe she was worse off than she really was, just so as not to break the trust that had been so hard to earn. In that moment, I suddenly realized that we might have found an imperfect but just right piece of the puzzle. Our team was finally complete.